Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to my September TBR. By the time this goes up, it's gonna be the middle of September, I'm not gonna lie. And I can't lie because you will know. So the beginning of August was amazing. I read a lot and then something happened and it just put me in a life slump, and that kind of affected my reading as well. So there were a couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, where I didn't read at all. So a lot of the projects and a lot of the videos that I had planned for August that you may have seen in my August TBR, which ended up being the only video that I put out that month, are still projects that I really want to get to. I'm not gonna put like a timeline on those anymore because right now I'm just hoping to get back into reading. Thankfully, from going from August to September, it kind of helped me to reset my mindset and kind of get out of that slump, and I have picked up 1 or 2 books since then. I haven't finished anything though, so it's the 9th of September and I'm still just slugging a bit through books even though I'm enjoying them. But I'm really excited for this video, and it has been in the works for a very long time, and I'm so excited that September is finally here and I can introduce something new to my channel, and that is my new TBR game, and that is just beaT that TBR. This is of course reminiscent of Cluedo. I have changed quite a bit, so I'm gonna talk about this in a second, but I also quickly want to mention that this is also going to be a TBR for the Magical Readathon Orilium. I am taking part in that again. I did in April as well, and this time around I want to continue with my new calling that I ended up getting with my April wrap-up. If you've seen that, I'm gonna link it up above. If you haven't, you want to check it out. So I am gonna talk about my TBR for that as well, but that's gonna be at the end because I'm gonna try to put both of those TBRs together. Like I said, it's already the 9th of the month and I kind of know that my reading isn't going to be as strong as it has been in the past, so I'm hoping that these TBRs are going to overlap. But we'll get to that. We're going to start off with my new TBR game, and later on I'm going to try to fit those picks into the Magical Readathon. If you're only here to hear about the Magical Readathon TBR, I'm going to tell you where to skip to right now, and if you want to know more about my TBR game but you're not really too interested in getting to know all the details, then skip to this time because that's when we're going to play the game, and some of it is probably going to be self-explanatory and I'm going to explain it again when we played for the first time. But I do want to quickly go into the board and why I picked this game, what it's all about, and explain it to you for a quick second. Not sure if I'm gonna hold this up or if I'm just gonna put in a little picture because it's gonna be difficult to explain while holding it at the same time. As you can see, this is reminiscent and this is kind of inspired by the original Cluedo, or Clue in the US, and I've always loved that board. I always played the game and also played with the board game. Others played with Lego or Barbie. I kind of took the gaming pieces and made them walk around this mansion. I had another board game that has like a castle in it, and I kind of combined the two to just have a big ass mansion for my little play figures. So it's weird, but that's what we're here for. So I had the idea for this kind of game a long time ago, years and years ago. That was still when there were so many original like TBR games being played by Gavin with his Higher or Lower. Becca's Beckopoly was still a thing back then. Cody's Wheel of TBR and Jade's TBR Pursuit, all of those were still being played. They have all kind of taken a step back and I'm kind of late to the game, so to speak, but I'm okay with it. I'm really excited about it now. It's not going to be something that I play all year long, but I thought it would be perfect for the upcoming spooky months to see if I can find out who slayed that TBR. Hopefully it's me. Since I came up with the idea, I know other people have used Cluedo as a base for their TBR game. Meg comes to mind because I watch her TBRs all the time, but we do have different takes on the game and how we play it, so I think it's still going to be a bit original. So let's get into it. If you don't know Cluedo or Clue, if you don't know anything about this game, it's basically a mansion where a murder has taken place, and you as a player are trying to figure out who has done it, where they did it, so the murder scene and the murder weapon, how they did it. So these 3 things you don't know in the beginning, and you're kind of have to play the game in order to guess all those 3 components and to figure out which clues you can just exclude and disregard. I did try to go that route where I in the beginning didn't know like where the murder took place and everything, but that was very complicated and it didn't really work for this kind of game. So since the mission is to beat my TBR and to just slay it, so I made it that I am helping the murderer get to wherever they need to go in order to slay that TBR. So I need to pick a suspect, get the murder weapon, and then get to the murder scene in order to be successful and to complete my TBR basically at the end of the month. So just like with the original game, I have 3 main cards, and those are the suspects, the whodunit, and as you can see on the game board, they are still in the same place as they are on the original board, and I kept the same color scheme going with those. But there is no Colonel Mustard, there is no Mrs. White or Dr. Green. They are gone, and in their stead are characters that you might find in your books. And those characters represent a certain genre that I read a lot of. So you might have the magician for fantasy, or you might have the sleuth for mystery, or the lovers for romance, and so on. So in the beginning, we're gonna pick one of those genres, and I'm gonna talk about what that means for the game later on. Now, on to the second part of the 3 questions that we always ask ourselves with Cluedo is the where. Where did this murder happen? And as you can tell, I kind of changed the setting of this whole game. Because in the original, you have like a big mansion and these different rooms where all of this could have taken place. On my board, it's kind of a city with all these different places where you can either get a book or read a book. So you have basically places where you can acquire a book, or like the bookshop, the publishers, or the library, and all of those are prompts correlating to that setting. So you would have the ARC for the publisher, the new book for the bookshop, the borrowed book from the library. But then you also have places where you like to read, or where I like to read basically. So you have the cafe, which I love to do. I'd love to go into a cafe and just read. So you would have a book that has a high possibility for getting a high rating. Or you have the setting of a friend's place where you would do a buddy read with your friend. Or you would have the reading nook where all your favorite books are and your special editions. Speaking of special editions, the prompt for that room would, for example, be to read a book that came with a book subscription box. So again, I tried to fit the setting to the prompt that would correlate to. But you would also have, for example, like the living room, a living room where you spend time with friends and family, you play games. So that prompt, for example, would be to pick another Booktubers TBR game and play it in order to find out what you're gonna read. I'm gonna go more into depth with these if they come up in the game. And in the end, you always need to know the third thing. You need to know the murder weapon. How was the murder committed? You don't have a candelabra or a pistol in this one. You actually have things that help you get that TBR down and to slay that TBR. So those are the kind of formats that you have in order to take in the story. So I picked items that would help us in those reading times. That might be a candle for an ebook, a coffee for a hardback, because you need that coffee to get the endurance to hold up that hardback. You might need the headphones for an audiobook, and so on and so on. With all 3 categories, you always have one item or one place and one suspect that means free choice. What that means is that I get to choose from all the other options the one that fits the best for me and my reading goal that month. As you can see, the murder weapons are all over the board, and my mission is to go ahead and pick up my murder weapon and then go to the location that the murder is going to take place. And when I get the murder weapon and reach my final destination, then the TBR game is going to be over, and that is when all these 3 prompts come into play. Because the last book that I'm gonna read is a book that fits all 3 prompts. So this will be a book that has a specific genre, a specific format that I'm gonna read it in, and a specific way I acquired it or I'm gonna read it. And if all of those 3 prompts work for a book, I can read it, and with this last book finish my TBR. Now, last book means there are more books. Yes, Those books are prompted by my way of getting to the murder weapon and also to the final destination. As you can tell, every spot on this game has a different symbol. There are, I think, seven different symbols. We have 3 symbols that represent the 3 categories that I've already talked about. So we have the suspects, the murder weapon, and the murder scene. Then we also have the dice, which just means roll again. We also have, because that's not a symbol, I didn't mention it before, we have blank spaces. That just means I get to pick any category that I want for the prompt. Then we also have 3 more symbols, and those represent, again, 3 different ways of looking at a book. So we have the main suspects, and these prompts are about me as a person, me as a reader, or the authors. So anything regarding me or the authors or any of those kind of prompts are all under the umbrella of usual suspects. The second kind of prompt card are the Mr. Body card. Mr. Body, of course, referring to the movie where the murder victim was Mr. Body. And I kind of use that as inspiration. Anything to do with the outside of a book, how it looks, the title, the cover, all of that may be found under this category. And the third category is the secret passage. And if you've played the original, you know of the secret passageways. They are not in my game, except for on these cards, because the secret passage, like a passage in a book, means that we look inside the book. All the things about the tropes, the themes, the characters, all those things are under the umbrella of this third category. That's a lot of information. You will see when we get to the cards, you will kind of see why I differentiate between these 3 categories. Also, because I didn't want to have like this high of a stack for each category, on each card there will be 6 different options, and I will just roll the dice again in order to find out which of the 6 prompts I will actually need to find a book for. So, without much further ado, let's go into playing the game. I have rolled before. I'm really happy with how it all turned out. It worked, which is kind of surprising for me. And yeah, I'm really happy to have this be the first round of Just beaT That TBR. Let's get started. And welcome to round number 1 of Just beaT That TBR, Cluedo style. I shuffled all the cards, and on this side you have the who, the where, and the how. And on this side we have our usual suspects, our Mr. Body cards, and our secret passages. So let's go ahead and pick our suspect, our murder weapon, also our destination. So let's start with the murderer. Who is it gonna be? It's the sleuth. It's the sleuth, so that means it's a thriller or a mystery. And that is the white person, so we're starting off over here. Where does the sleuth have to go? Ooh, nice. So it's best to read for the last time before winter comes, to read in nature. So that's where we have to go. So basically around the bookshop to nature. And nature actually means free choice. And free choice means that I can choose the prompt from any of the other rooms in order to choose my final book, which gives me a lot of leeway, so I'm happy. And now, where do I have to go before going to nature in order to get my murder weapon? It's the headphones, which means audiobook. Escape reality by muting it. Listen to an audiobook. So that's great. So the audiobook's actually on its way, so this will be a very quick journey for us. So we'll have to get to the audiobook before we can go on to nature. I could, if I wanted to, like, take the shortcut through the bookstore, but I don't think it is that much of a shortcut because I still need to get the headphones. So I'm still just gonna go ahead and use the normal way. So once I get to the end point, I will have to choose a book that is an audiobook, that is a thriller, and then another thing that I can choose by myself. So that might be like a 5-star prediction or an arc that I got, or a recommendation or anything else. That wouldn't work for a reading nook because that is to read a book from like a subscription box. That doesn't work for audiobooks. A reread would work. A TBR vet would work. I could choose a book via a game, but I think that doesn't really fit for like choosing the final book. Then we have library, which is I could borrow a thriller audiobook, which would actually make perfect sense for like Libby and stuff. I could get a new audiobook, maybe like through Audible. So yeah, a lot of things to choose from. This actually sets me up perfectly for the final book, but let's see how many books I will have to read in between. So we got our main cards, and those are the Sleuth for a thriller mystery, Nature for free choice, and the headphones for audiobook. These will come in play at the end of the game when I need to figure out which book is going to be my final book in order to complete this TBR. Keep these in mind. But let's go to the first roll. So this is the first roll. A 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I could go for another like setting, or I could go for a genre. This is hard because this would make the most sense. But if it's a genre that I don't like, that could actually hurt me. Can you actually see me where I am? I'm just gonna... I don't think... Oh, that actually worked. Never mind. Because this time around it's such a short way, I think I'm gonna go for the setting, because I'm not sure about all the genres, but I think I can find a book for all of the settings. So let's go here. So we'll have the next one from this side, and that is The Bedroom, a reread. Oh, this is perfect. I already know what I want to choose for this one. And it says, relax, no bad surprises here. Reread a book. That's actually perfect. Perfect. Ah, I love this already. Okay. Real quick, I'm sorry that you couldn't really see the beginning of the game because my camera wasn't really set at the right angle. I'm gonna be more careful next time. So we landed on location, a murder scene, and we picked one, and it turned out to be The Bedroom. So this is a reread. Relax, no bad surprises here. Reread a book, which again, like I said, I'm so happy about because there are a lot of different rereads, as it turns out, that I need to, or that I want to read during this month, and I'm so sad that I haven't actually gotten to them yet. But one that I've been meaning to reread for the longest time, because it just made me happy when I read it first during first lockdown, and that is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune. If someone was to ask me about one of my favorite books, I would mention this, even though I've only read it once, and I think I only listened to the audiobook for this. I remember lying on the couch having the audiobook on, and it just made me happy when the world was really dark and depressing. And since I have been kind of in a life slump, I'm hoping that this will do the trick again, and that I can actually finally start this and read this before the next book in this series comes out. Okay, next up, let's hope for a big roll. Yes, 6. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would mean like anything theme or plot wise. And then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If I wanted to go that route. If I go here, then that would mean like authors or how I got a book, anything like that. And I think I'm gonna go plot wise. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's over here. So we have The Secret Passage. Anything to do with the theme of a book. So we have tropes here, and this Secret Passage is about a trope. We have a girl disguised as a boy, book in a book, competition, ragtag team, assassin, or like a magic school training camp setting. So all of these are tropes that I love, so I'm not mad about getting any of these, but let's find out which one I actually have to go for. 1. Girl disguised as a boy. Oh, that's so good. Thank you, Mulan, for like getting me to love this trope. Perfect. The next prompt that we got was one that I am so happy about. Again, really perfect for me, and that was to have a trope of a girl disguised as a boy inside the book. And I am such a big fan of Mulan, and ever since then, ever since I was a kid, I just loved that trope. I just love it. I can't I can't not pick up a book if it has that trope in it. And of course I had a couple of options for this, but I decided to go with Of Jade and Dragons by Amber Chen, because this not only has that trope, but it also has dragons. It also has silk punk, which is basically steampunk but with Chinese lore in it, and this just is looking so beautiful. I can't wait. I've heard great things about this and I really want to get into my dragon book era again. So I picked this. The trope of being disguised as a boy is that the main character has to disguise herself as her brother because her father was killed and he was always her hero. She wanted to be just like him. She wanted to be an engineer, and now she just wants to know what happened and how all of this happened, and she has to go undercover as her brother in order to find answers. Sounds great. Always love like a murder mystery inside like a fantasy novel, and family is always something that I love in novels as well. So can't wait to get to this one. Okay, next up, roll number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we can't make it until the headphones, but it's fine. 3. So we could go 1, 2, 3, which would mean like a murder weapon. Another one of these, or we can go 1, 2, 3. No, 1, 2, 3. So we could go for a genre, but I think we'll go straight ahead, and that is a coffee, which means a hardcover. These thick books really test your endurance. Read a hardcover. An extra, treat yourself to something. Maybe take yourself out to a cafe to read. Yes, I think I will do that. So perfect hardcovers. I have a lot to read, so got it. Next up we have another murder weapon, and that is the coffee hardcover. It actually works out perfect because the sequel of The House in the Cerulean Sea is coming out this month as well. It hasn't reached me yet. It's supposed to arrive maybe tomorrow, if all goes well. And that is Somewhere Beyond the Sea by TJ Klune, and I'm not really sure if it's a sequel or a prequel, but whatever it is, I'm gonna love it, I'm sure, and I'm just gonna devour it. Cozy fantasy, I just need that at the moment. Next up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 would be perfect, because if I land right on the headphones, that means I can just pick them up for my final prompt. I don't need to read anything else. If I don't land on them perfectly and I just have to go by, and then if I land on something else, that is another prompt that I have to do. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6. Okay, that's one more, but it also means it gets me closer to nature. So we'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that is Our Usual Suspect, Pool, and that is over here. Ooh, a gift. And that means read a book that has been gifted to you. So there's lots to choose from. Love it. The next prompt that I got was gift. Read a book that has been gifted to you. And there were a lot of different options that I could have picked because of course every ARC, every advanced reader copy that I get is technically a gift, and I thought about going that route, but then I remembered that I have a book on my TBR that has been there for a while now. I think it's been last year for my birthday that I got this, and I've been meaning to pick up the series again, and I just keep pushing it back, and I need to read it. And this is the time to read These Infinite Threads by Tahara Mafi. I really enjoyed the first one. I loved how big the ending was, so I know there's gonna be a lot in this, even though it's shorter than the first book. But the third book is already out. I've read the first one years ago, so I might need to reread the first one in order to get to this one, but I'm fine with that. I need to know what happens in this one. And also, this is just such a beautiful gift. I'm so happy that my friend gifted this to me, and I'm just, why have I not picked up this book yet? So really happy to get to this one in September. Okay, so now we have our sleuth and we have our headphones. So now we can go ahead and go to our final destination. So let's go there, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and a 6 would actually get me there. Here we go. 3. Okay. So we can go 1, 2, 3, which would 1, 2, 3. Okay, that's the same. 1, 2, 3. I mean, I could go 1, 2, 3 if I want to have like a cover thing, but then I would still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the next one, and that's very risque. Yeah, I'll go for another trope. So I'll go 1, 2, 3. So another secret passage. This time it's genre. So we have the basic genres that we have here around the contestants, basically. So we have fantasy, sci-fi, romance, contemporary, thriller, mystery, and other. And let's see which one it'll be. 6, other. Okay, so I'll have to get a book that is none of these things. Like, it's not fantasy, it's not sci-fi, etc. It is something else. Maybe historical fiction or something. Let's find out. We got other, which kind of threw me for a loop, not gonna lie, because that basically just means any genre that is not represented on this card or on the board. And the genres on the board and on this card are basically all the genres that I read typically. I don't stray from those. I'm at the moment I mostly read fantasy, I'm not gonna lie. I would love to read more sci-fi, I don't. I would love to get back into romance, I don't. So right now I'm kind of like stuck on fantasy and I'm happy for it. But needing to read a book in the genre other just means like historical or horror or non-fiction even. Not sure if I'm in like the right headspace for that, but then I figured out I'm gonna bend the rules a little bit and pick up this beautiful book. This is Handbuch für den vorsichtigen Reisenden durch das Ödland by Sarah Brooks. This is the German translation. The original is called The Cautious Traveler's Guide to the Wastelands. I mean, it has a train. Need I say more? It is historical. It's set at the end of the 19th century and it takes place on the Trans-Siberian Express. It does have like a fantastical element or even like a horror element. This train's journey is taking us from Hong Kong to St. Petersburg via the wasteland that is in between. Now in this reality, something happened. Some mysterious illness befalls people that are in this wasteland. And so a long time ago, the people at each end of this wasteland, they built walls. No one is allowed to go in there because they go mad. It doesn't seem to be like creatures or anything. It seems that something is in there that makes people hallucinate, become violent, kill other people, so you don't really want to be there. But people of course need to travel through it in order for the world and the economy to still work. So we are now on this train going through the wasteland. I have already started. I'm 100 pages in and I'm really enjoying it, and it actually works very well for this prompt because it isn't fantasy. I think I would put it more to historical horror, because we don't know what's out there and we are following different people. The last time that the train went through the wasteland, something happened, people died, and now everybody's kind of weary of going in, but they need to, and everybody has a different agenda of being on the train, and really good so far. I would not have picked this up because I thought it would be more just historical, but my colleague actually read it and she loved it and explained it to me, and I was like, oh my god, yes, give it to me. So really happy that this worked out perfectly for this prompt. So hopefully our last roll, I need a 3 or higher to finally reach nature. Yes. 1, 2, 3. So we reached our final destination. The murder is about to happen, and in order to do that, I will have to find a book that is an audiobook, a mystery, and then something along the lines of the other ones. Let's see which ones I have to pick from. So it's the bedroom I already have over there, so I think I'm not going to use that one again. because I don't think I want to reread more than one book this month, or I shouldn't probably. So I could go for a borrowed book, like I said, library. That would actually work perfectly for this type of thing. So maybe I'll put it down here. So a new book, maybe from Audible, that would work. A high star prediction, that's something. But I don't think I have too many like thriller high star predictions. So I could go for a buddy read, but that doesn't really, well, no, that doesn't really work. So I'm gonna put that aside. A TBR game, like I said, doesn't really work too well for this last final book. Then an ARC, that could work. Then we have a TBR vet, that could work. And then we have the book subscription box, the reading nook, that doesn't actually work. Well, it would work if I have like a book subscription book that I can get the audiobook from somewhere else. That would actually work as well. But I don't think I have a subscription box book that is a thriller or a mystery. So I don't think that's gonna work. So it's gonna be between these 5, and let's see what I can find. If I don't find any book that works for all 3, I will have to split them up, and I would have to read 2 books instead of 1. But I don't think that's going to be the case here. So really happy, and let's find out what's the last book that I'm going to read this month. Also sad that I didn't get to use any of the Mr. Body things, but that's fine. We'll get there next month. So now that we have reached our murder scene, our final destination, we reached nature. And nature is actually a free choice, which means I can choose a prompt from any of the other locations in order to fulfill the mission of slaying my TBR by reading a book that has all 3 prompts in it. And I went back and forth with, like I said, the different prompts that would work for this kind of combination, and I ended up going with the publisher, which means to read an ARC. And for that, I'm going for the German ARC that I got from the publishers for The Agency for Scandal by Laura Wood. It has just been released here in Germany, and I've heard good things, but I haven't really seen anyone on BookTube talk about this. I think this is a historical murder mystery, so it's gonna be interesting, and I'm hoping it's gonna be fun and quick. And I have the ARC for the audiobook as well as for the ebook, so I should get through it a bit quicker. So that would actually work perfectly for this combination. An ARC that I have for a murder mystery, and I'm listening to the audiobook as well. So that is my TBR for my first time playing this game. I think the game was kind of nice to me. I do think I still have like a bit to go to get to the end of this TBR, which is kind of gonna be a stretch if I'm looking at my reading right now. But now let's go into the Magical Readathon TBR, because I do want to participate. The all-nighter is also coming up later this month, so I still have time to get into those books and actually manage to get the next part of my education at this academy done. If you don't know what the Magical Readathon is, I'm gonna link G's announcement video down below. It's a whole thing where you pick and choose a character and a career, and you're trying to fit certain classes and reading prompts to books, like I did with my TBR game. And let's see what I have to do for that career, which is the Beastmaster. In order to advance for my Beastmaster career, I need an O in Elemental Studies, a D in Animal Studies, an O in Alchemy, and a Q in Restoration. I don't have the syllabus in front of me where I know exactly what prompt works for what class. So I'm just going to go through the different prompts that I have in order to reach the end goal. So in the beginning, we have the prompt to read a book that has our favorite scent in the title. Ugh, that was a really hard one. I didn't really want to go the perfume route in this one, so I just went and searched for words that are things that I love to smell in nature and like in everyday life. That would be like coffee or like fresh cut grass. I ended up with the smell of the sea, when you're at the ocean and you're just like inhaling all of that good sea smell. So again, I can go with The House in the Cerulean Sea. Just looking at this cover, I just want to be there and take a big whiff and be in this place again. So that works out perfectly. Next, I need to read a book that has a phoenix on the cover, and again, it worked perfectly with my TBR for my TBR game, and that is to read the sequel to The House in the Cerulean Sea, which is Somewhere Beyond the Sea. The phoenix has a very big role to play in the book itself, but it's also on the cover. If it turns out that the book doesn't reach me in time, I do have other books that have phoenixes on the cover. There were a lot to choose from. It was kind of hard, but yeah, I wanted to prioritize this series this month in order to maybe get some happy moments for me in as well. The next prompt that I need to fulfill is to read a standalone, and for that I chose Sorceress Comes to Call from T. Kingfisher. I have already started this, and now I'm kind of debating if I should change my vote for this. Not because I didn't like it, but because it does have a very dark beginning, and I think it's gonna just stay dark and gruesome, and this is definitely not one of her cozy reads. It's more going along the line of horror, and oh yeah, I don't know if I'm up for it, like, mentally to go into this. I will read this eventually. I'm just gonna keep it there. If I don't find my mental headspace in order to continue with this during this month, I might go and put this one on there as well, because this is a standalone and that would fit as well. For the next prompt, I needed to find a book that had a cover change, and I decided to go with This Woven Kingdom by Tara Mafi. Like I said before, I want to read These Infinite Threads. This is the first book. Like I said, it is bigger, but I remember flying through it. It is very character focused, and it only starts to open up to a bigger setting and a bigger world in this one, I'm guessing. So it might be just great to get back into it, to get to know these characters again. And this is... Did I even tell you what all of these books are about? I don't think so. So it would work perfectly to reread this and then get into the second book. And the cover change is because I actually got the Illumicrate special edition of this. I'm not gonna lie, I prefer this one. I'm just not a fan, to be honest, which is okay because I love the original covers. I love what's under the dust jacket, so I am gonna read this, but there is a cover change, so it works. Next up, I need to read a book that is gonna make me emotional. Thanks, G. So I think I'm gonna go for Aidan Thomas's Celestial Monsters. This is the sequel to Sunbearer Trials, and it is also the final book in this series. I hope to have the time to reread the first one, just because I loved it so much. It was so surprising and beautiful, and I loved the characters. And since it's only a two-part series, I think I would love to just reread the first one in order to start with this one. I'm kind of bummed that I was in a reading slump last month because this arrived early. It was only supposed to be released this month, and I got it like 2 weeks earlier, and I would have loved to just go in and maybe even get a review out before it was officially released. Alas, life happened, and I'm still happy to get around to reading it this month. I know this is gonna give me all the feelings, and I'm definitely gonna get emotional. I know that for sure. Next up is the prompt to read a book that has a night sky on the cover, and again I have two options depending on how my reading is going. The first one would be again of Jade and Dragons, like I had in my TBR before, because this is kind of like an airship, and if you look closely you can see kind of stars in the background, so this is a night sky in fact. But really I would love to get to my arc of The Shadow Road by K.D. Kirchmeier. This is it middle grade or YA? I'm not sure, but it just looks creepy. It seems to have like dark magical beings in there, and I think the sky has forever gone dark. I love it. Gonna be creepy, and I really hope that I would get to that one, but if I don't and if I have to push it back a bit, then this would work as well. And the last prompt that I would have to fulfill in order to complete my assignment this semester is to read a book that has a poisonous plant on the cover, and I'm going with Powerful by Lauren Roberts. It's a very busy month, and I said before that the different projects that I mentioned during my last TBR video are still ongoing, and I said that I would read the whole series, reread the first one, read this novella, and then go on to read the sequel, and nothing has been done in that regard. And so I'm only putting this little novella on here because if I don't actually manage to reread the first one and get to the second one, I can just read this because it takes side characters of the main series and gives that character their own story. So I could just read this on its own and it would be fine. It's short. It would be smart to read this for this challenge. Not sure if this plant is exactly poisonous. I was going more for like poison ivy things, so I might be stretching it a bit, but I'm going for this one again because I want to make it very easy for me to get back into reading. So I want to pick up and reread like great books that like really amazed me when I read them first, and maybe like try to go on in that series. And I really loved Powerless. It was one of my favorite books last year, so I want to make it easy for me to find joy in reading again. So those were the prompts for the Magical Readathon. Let me know down in the comments what books you're planning on reading this month, what you think of my new TBR game. Are you taking part in the Magical Readathon? If so, what career are you going for? Yeah, just let me know how your month is going. And if you've liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. And until the next time, I hope you have all the great reads. Bye!